Thank you. Good morning. I am Executive Director of the Public Design Commission, Eric Bilal. Welcome to the PDC public meeting. Now let's begin. If you are joining us via Teams and would like to testify on a project listed for our public hearing, please sign up through the Google form that is linked on the meeting agenda and at the top of the Design Review tab on the PDC website. Commissioners, please remember throughout the meeting to bring the microphone close to you and speak into it while talking. Please also remember to turn it on and off.
Good morning. I'm Deborah Martin. I'm the president of PDC. Welcome to the August 17th, 2026 Public Design Commission meeting. As New York City's design review agency, the Public Design Commission, PDC, has jurisdiction over the design of permanent structures, landscape architecture, and art proposed on or over city-owned property. Today's meeting is being held in person at City Hall. Members of the public can attend and give testimony either in person or remotely. I want to make clear that we welcome testimony on public hearing items. Testimony is not permitted and has never been permitted on committee items that are not yet up for a public hearing or vote. I do want to make that clear, and we'll address that as we get to other items. Today's meeting, as I said, is being held in person at City Hall. Members of the public can attend and give testimony either in person or remotely on public hearing items. Please note that we will have 2 commissioners viewing remotely who are unable to join in person due to extraordinary circumstance. Due to a lack of quorum in the actual boardroom here today of 6 commissioners, that is our quorum, they will be unable to vote or provide feedback. Because the projects on the consent agenda have already received a recommendation of approval, they will be recalendared for the September 22nd consent agenda. We're moving now to the first item, which is public hearing. We will now begin the public hearing portion of the meeting with item number 30459. This is preliminary and final review for the minor repair of a quill for the Thomas Jefferson 1833 sculpture by Pierre Jean David as part of the long-term loan to the New York Historic, located at 170 Central Park West in Manhattan. Per standard procedure, the applicants will give their presentation, then public testimony will be heard, and then the commission will ask questions and deliberate. We will hear in-person testimony first, followed by testimony from remote participants. Presenters, you may begin. Okay. And please, if you would state your name and your institutional connection.
Yes. Okay. I am Kenneth Bay, and I'm the Director of Conservation at the New York Historical at 170 Central Park West. And we have on loan from City Hall this sculpture of a plaster standing sculpture of Thomas Jefferson made in 1833. And it's been on loan to us for several years from here. And most recently in towards the end of May, the tip of the quill of the pen held by Jefferson was accidentally broken during transport when a transport it's a piece of the bandage that was holding the piece to move it into place broke free, and just a 1-inch piece broke. And as is usual, when an incident occurs, we make a proposal on what to do about it in conservation, and that was made and sent here for approval. And approval was given a few days later, around early June, and the piece fit in place perfectly well, but had to be re-glued, and then small amounts of fill material were proposed to be put in place to retouch and disguise it. And that is short history of the piece and its dimensions and materials. Sorry, I forgot to push through these as I was talking, but it sums up that it came in 2021. And here is the small break at the 1-inch piece of the tip of the quill, and my proposal to re-adhere it and then retouch it to disguise. And the treatment was to attach it with the glue that we call in conservation Lascaux 498X, and then filled with a gesso material and retouched with watercolor. And there it shows having been repaired. And that's how it is today in its place on exhibition. And that is all I have to say.
Okay. Before we begin testimony, please note that members of the public are welcome to testify both remotely and in person. We ask that testimony be limited to issues of design and aesthetic merit, as that's the commission's purview. This is meant for public comment about the project, and commissioners or the team will not be responding to questions raised during the testimony period. Has anyone here signed up to testify in person? Yeah.
Kelsey, has anyone signed up for remote testimony?
Yes, we have one person signed up for remote testimony. That is Todd Fine. Todd, we are going to unmute you. If you could please state your name and affiliation and keep your testimony to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, hello. I am Todd Fine. I'm the president of the Washington Street Advocacy Group, which is dedicated to the city's public art. I would like to commend Eric Bilal and the Mamdani administration for having a public hearing on this matter and for releasing the information about the damage. I believe part of the reason that the situation 5 years ago became such a national story and a mess was because of the abuse of the consent agenda to prevent testimony on it, and I'm glad we didn't have to have a fight this time. This is not minor damage, and this is not a minor situation. This is damage to one of the most important sculptures in American history, which was used to make the version that stands in the Capitol and stood outside the White House for several decades. Now, the operative term, which I can't believe was not mentioned in the presentation, the operative phrasing from the presentation 5 years ago was that the statue would then be moved to the library reading room for the remainder of the loan. So in the presentation 5 years ago, we were told that there would never be a third move, and now apparently a fourth move to get it out of this new exhibition. So my question is, we knew that these moves were risky. 2 moves to the lobby and then to the library reading room were already risky enough. Who authorized a third and a fourth move? Was there a presentation about that? Did the Public Design Commission decide on that? If not, that seems to be an open violation of the loan and a reason for its return. And the fact that they did this in such a terrible way seems to be a violation of the loan itself and the procedures. I remember when the initial move was made, there was a professional team that came in. There was a lot of thought given to the move. What happened here? I'm kind of shocked that there's no discussion of that in this presentation of the care and what they will do in the future. So in addition, why could a repair be made before approval? I mean, typically you have a proposal. We don't vote for repairs and the process of a repair after the repair has been made. So why wasn't there a hearing before the repair was made? I think it's because they were pushing to open an exhibition, a paid exhibition where you have to pay tickets to go in for this 250th anniversary. So that is those are 2, clear administrative issues that need to be resolved today. Was this move approved, and how could it be approved before the formal hearing? I mean, maybe that's consistent with your conservation process, but I believe the conservation meeting may have happened after the repair was made. So that needs to be clarified. The last thing I'd like to say is that in this 250th anniversary of Jefferson's Declaration, as American democracy is on the brink of collapse, and we have a new Mamdani administration devoted to equality, I think it's appropriate to begin a process of returning the sculpture to city custody. The Mamdani administration, refers to FDR and Mayor LaGuardia, but the story of why there was a Jefferson statue that was brought to city custody in the 1830s in Jacksonian, New York, and gifted by Jewish naval officer Uriah Levy is an important narrative for the city, I think, at this time. So
Thank you, Mr. Fine.
yes, so we need to return Jefferson, and we need clear answers today. And I think that presentation was grossly inadequate. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other additional members seeking to testify?
If there was anyone else seeking to testify remotely, please use the raise hand feature. We will give you 1 minute. I do not see any hands, so we are okay to proceed.
Seeing no hands, this concludes our testimony for the preliminary and final review for item 30459, the minor repair of a quill for the Thomas Jefferson 1833 sculpture by Pierre-Jean David as part of the long-term loan to the New York Historical, located at 170 Central Park West in Manhattan.
Commissioners, I want to just remind everyone that we don't have a quorum this meeting to vote. However, we will take any in-person oral or written testimony about this project into consideration. And I thank Mr. Pine for his testimony when this is calendared for a future public meeting. Do you have any questions or comments? I want to just state for the record that on November 17th, 2021, the PDC approved a loan of this artwork to New York Historical for 10 years. So that loan will run through November 17th, 2031. And we note that in terms of the loan, would include report of any moves or repairs to the move-in agency, which is DCAS, Department of Central Administrative Services, as you mentioned, and that it also included a certain requirement for interpretive signage. So we will look to put that information into the record, as you all are very much aware already. And there are no other questions or comments. We would like for you to be aware that those are the conditions for the next for our vote, that we would like to make sure that you are reporting any moves or repairs to the client, to the agency who is in charge with this work, and then the procedure is they would report that to PDC. And we understand that that you took steps that you felt were appropriate and necessary, and we will look forward to taking a vote at the next meeting. Okay, so with that, again, because we don't have a quorum, we'll not be voting on this project at this time. Calendared for a future public meeting. Okay, thank you for your presentation. We'll now move to the committee meeting portion of our meeting. I'm going to pause for a moment while the team presenting comes in. Corona Park in Corona, Queens. We will not hear public testimony or vote on this project today per standard committee meeting procedure. We only hear public testimony when there is a vote, which is preliminary or final. However, if you would like to submit written testimony on this project, please email the commission at designcommission@cityhall.nyc.gov. I'll repeat that. It's Design Commission, all one word, at cityhall.nyc.gov. It will be distributed to commissioners and saved for the record. Please note that Commissioner Castilla is recused and she has left the room for this presentation. Presenters, you have the floor. Yes, reread that. Yes. I am now naming the project that we are about to hear a presentation on. It is preliminary review, not for committee, of the construction of a gaming facility, resort, retail, and events complex as part of the master plan for Metropolitan Park, Queens Future, located in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park in Corona, Queens. Is that good? Okay. And you may begin. Welcome.
Good morning, commissioners and attendees. I'm Gail Rothstein from EDC. Your presenters today are Roberto Otero from SHOP and James Tenyon-Heiss from Field Operations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'll move quickly through the first few slides since I understand that everyone has sort of seen the project prior. Oh, there we go. And obviously the context of where we are within the approval process. It's wonderful to be here again. As everyone knows, we're focusing on Metropolitan Park and specifically on the integrated resort portion of the project, which is located around Shea Avenue north of Roosevelt. Some site photographs to locate everyone. Obviously, this will be replacing the substantial amount of asphalt surface lots that are between Shea and Roosevelt. The current appearance of that and the different kind of context that we have along Shea Road. Similarly, of course, it holds a dear location. It is location of former Shea Stadium that we are referencing as part of the design. In terms of the elements of the project and the entries, these two axons provide a sense of both the main entry from the MTA as well as the vehicular entry along Shea Road. And then the element of the project, we will address some of the comments that you guys issued, of course. It's basically composed of a symmetrical arrangement of towers that we went through with you guys during the master plan phase. These contain mainly the hotel rooms. And of course, the podium, which contains more of the public program and addresses its relationship to the surrounding context and the park. Circulation that I believe was reviewed throughout the master plan phase, and as well also both the circulation along the park, which is a key factor of the project, along with orchestrating the arrival sequence for vehicles along Shea Road. Different arrival points. We will address some of the ones from your comments as well, including the ones along the park. And then the general dimensions of the space. Of course, parking is a substantial part of the program, which is resolved in both the podium and the garage. And here the different elements of the podium, both the F&B and public components, alongside with the gaming and a Hard Rock Life venue closer to the MTA entrance. Roof plan against with some sense of the dimensional elements, as well as the ample array of PV roof provided. A sense of the building it proper. Maintains the general dimensions of the approved master plan, etc., with a lot of the key ideas of the building, which was to mitigate the scale of the development by creating an urban landscape reminiscent of Art Deco style. A few more of those. I think all of these have been previewed in the past. Some of the renders which might help start to discuss some of these issues. This is the view coming in from the main entry from the MTA station. You see the idea of the east colonnade, and as mentioned prior, the arrangement of the towers to mitigate their scale and also reduce their shadow on the public spaces. Some of the things you will see already is the idea of like unifying the facade of the park with this idea of just a glazed simple facade, removing some of the patchwork elements. Coming in, this is the main entry sequence. Here you see one of the towers along the main axis. The whole idea is to have a very clean, symmetrical arrangement of these. This is the southeast entry that connects to the park and also provides a substantial amount of the egress requirements for the building and has a pair of escalators. I think that's one of the comments that we're happy to discuss. Further down here, again, we see some of the integration of the comments that we received, including the facade as mentioned, a very unified, refined process for that facade with a glazed element, and then the arrival through the main stair, which we've provided for ADA access and ample kind of coordination of both egress and accessibility. That is that space here in the colonnade, which has a kind of a beautiful relationship to City Field, pairing it to that and framing the park space. An impression along the park. James is here, of course, from Field Ops to address any of the public realm comments. And this is the entry from the north, obviously a key element of entry from the parking lot. Also along Shea Road, where we integrate along the edge of Shea Road pedestrian and bike access. And we've addressed the comment about this ramp there by providing cladding that integrates it more into the whole area. This here you can see both the pedestrian parkway and the intent to clad. This we will provide further illustration of that in the 922 hearing as well. Some of the sense of the type of cladding, it's very consistent. This idea of the warm metals that kind of provide a welcoming experience along any public edge.
Excuse me, we have about 5 minutes left.
Oh, sure. I think that we're almost there to address some of the comments. Thank you. A key concern, of course, was along Roosevelt Avenue. This is the current expression of Roosevelt Avenue. And of course, we've expressed that not only are we setting back quite substantially, we're trying to resolve the issues of the parking. We, per the FEIS, we have 5,500 parking spots to resolve in this building. And we've presented this option and then one which we feel is an improvement with a setback of the building. There, but it is difficult to resolve parking in such a vast space. This is our we believe is a good attempt, which mitigates the arrival from Corona with the setback. This is what we've come back with in terms of that. Maybe I'll jump to some of the other items. This is along Roosevelt Avenue. I don't think there were any comments there. This is the impression of the facades. Again, this beckons to this idea of like Art Deco expression and always having these setbacks to mitigate the scale of the building with elegant articulation on the facade. Going through these, I think we've addressed the comments about the air intake and exhaust along Roosevelt Avenue. All the exhaust is through the building and not into the park proper. And it's done through these perforated panels along the park edge. The staircase and circulation. I think here we've addressed the concern about accessibility through the colonnade. So we provided this connection here that is seen here in the dashed line by revising substantially kind of how the stairs are operating and ensuring that it is a welcoming area there. In terms of the escalators, we saw a comment of the location of these. We are providing a pair of escalators here. If that is kind of addressing the concern, we are resolving for a substantial amount of egress, and we're exhausting our DMAP area here. Similarly, we are also providing elevators in that zone, in the southeast entry. Moving on, this is where we were before with the stairs noted, and this is the revision. So this provides a constant flow north-south. Oops, sorry. It's kind of angled weirdly there, and a promontory moment, so it's fully ADA accessible, and as noted, provides for the egress requirements along that, and it's a language that's cohesive. As you can see here, we're showing the DMAP line, so we are exhausting our border there in doing so. This gives you a good sense of how that is being resolved, and some images of the prior colonnade and the revised colonnade with a continuity along the edge that is fully accessible. And then the impression of the before and after with that revision that addresses the comment. Similarly, the gates are as shown here. Those will be open throughout the day. And then the materiality that again continues this idea of the warm materials that not only relate to the park, but also to City Field, which is something that was always of concern. So this is a series of impressions of how we do that with a nice degree of articulation to break down the scale. Some details of how that is resolved. The facade of the east colonnade, again, there used to be this patchwork as identified here with the blue, brown, and green of different materials. And we've taken to heart the comment, resolving it with a much cleaner kind of glazed expression, as shown here. Here we show what is both vision and a shadow box. So it feels consistent and unified. In some way, much like this amazing building by Billy Fumikomaki kind of shows that there is a way to provide this kind of continuity and elegance to the facade. So we hope you guys agree with us that it's an improvement from the patchwork of that, what we had before, to the clean kind of glazed facade. Going through the programs, just for context of what is in each one of those elements, level 1 and 2 obviously have more back of house elements. The colonnade proper, which has some areas of F&B that spill out into these spaces, as well as some back of house requirements. Level 3 and 4, which have the ballroom area, which opens directly into the park and provides amazing vistas to the park and to City Field. Daycare, I think
Yes.
that's it.
Morning, everyone. Good
Go
to
for it.
see you. In the interest of time, I'm going to soar through this content. Just going to speak briefly about the daycare provision outside the IR footprint. It's an outdoor area immediately adjacent to the indoor daycare area of the IR. This is a view of the facade and the relative condition near that area. And you asked for a nighttime view of that. That's what that looks like. Just speaking about the daycare area itself, the major adjustments and things you asked us to investigate were both in terms of how it's used and relative to the outdoor provision. The operator has the opportunity to take kids out into the park, which is immediately adjacent to the outdoor area. They're not necessarily confined to this little precinct, if you will. This area is relatively limited to the property line. It's a private portion of the project, so it can't expand outside of this property line. That's why it's kind of defined within that zone. The other thing you asked us to investigate was kind of the porosity and how it's relating to the park. I think previously the design team was keeping this slightly shrouded and enclosed. The current design opens it up with a more open air fence. And the biggest exhibit I have to demonstrate that would be kind of the previous version where we had higher fence that was mostly opaque and a canopy that was mostly opaque as well. The current version of that uses a DPR style fence to open up the view and opportunities for the kids to see nature, as well as a canopy that is operable to allow them to open and close throughout the day.
And I guess we also have some of the materials that we are
Excuse me.
consistently.
Just a few more minutes.
Sure. Consistently maintaining from our prior presentation and approvals. The idea is, of course, to have a variety of these metals, which also provide this kind of, as I mentioned, a sense of warmth. It relates to the hospitality, main use of hospitality of the project, and also beckons to a bit to the City Field and its warmer tones. And we provided some of these samples. Happy to bring those. We understand that some of our renders, deviate a little bit. It's not easy to render these type of materials, but hopefully the physical samples allow that. And here are just a few samples of how that is deployed alongside of the different type of materials with some degree of variety and also using perforation to maintain continuity and a refined look. I think that covers our presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, James and Roberto. Commissioners, I'm going to propose, because there's so much here and this is a very complicated site, to walk us through the various areas that Roberto and James address as per our comments, if that's acceptable to. Okay, great. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have some of the chips if helpful, or the colors. Yeah. This is the variety of colors that we're generally using. They're hard to render, but and even though we're indoors, which is not the best way to see them. Those are the nominal names we're using. It's painted aluminum. Yeah, the one we use the most is this one in combination with this one. Then on the tower, we have these accents, and on the parking lots, we have the lighter ones to also try and differentiate them a bit. Oh, oh, sorry.
Do you have the number?
Mm.
That one's.
Oh, hard on me.
PTO. Okay, so it's 1, 2,
Mhm.
3. So the very top is 2, the crown.
Yeah.
No, that's the edge. 4 is the.
Oh, so
the top is this one.
Yeah,
So it's actually dark. Very darker.
a little bit darker, yeah. And because it is a faceted kind of material, it'll catch the light in very different tones.
That's. Yes, it's much darker. It's shown there. Much darker. It's closer to the.
This one over here, yeah. Yeah,
And 3 is the vertical.
this is the one that's more used on the piers, and they're always mixed, so we have a sense of variety.
Do you have comments to the material choices or colors?
What is the glass? We're just trying to understand. Yeah, what is the glass that's being used? Is it a colored glass or is it a clear glass?
I think we actually, oh, here we go. Here. So it's a glass that it's really defined by performance criteria for sustainability in order to ensure that it has the right reflectivity. And it also pairs well with the metals quite nicely.
So can you just hold this up?
Sure.
Can we see that?
Yeah.
With that,
So these are always coming in a combination of colors. You don't always have them on their own.
right?
This
Can
would
you
be the
just,
best way.
yeah, that's great. Can you hold it
Yeah.
all up so I
Yeah.
can see it?
And the interesting thing is, of course, when sun hits it, and because we're pleating the metals, you always see more than one tone of the color at the same time.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start with the,
Thank you.
Happy to.
thank you. Let's start with the daycare center. I don't recall that we had any substantial comments. We had addressed that issue of opacity and the roofing and sunlight. So I want to say thank you for your changes here. We feel like this is a great improvement. Now children will have sunlight during their day.
Yeah, well, thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
We're on the same page there.
Okay, good. Any other comments on the daycare center before we move on? I think.
No, I just appreciate you listening to our feedback.
Yes.
It's more open.
That's what we're here for.
More
Yeah.
Connection to the park.
Yes, this will be a place where children can thrive and get their vitamin D at the same time.
Yep.
So, good.
Thank you.
For that. I'm going to now move us on to the master plan.
Mhm.
Since you started that, Roberto, can you go to any of the images that you have? See the master plan.
Sure.
See, that one is fine.
Yeah.
So I want to invite you, in the original approval of the master plan, indeed, PDC did approve A and B.
Mhm.
I want to say that if the team wishes to have Tower C approved as well, you are invited to resubmit your master plan and we can start over from the beginning. That would be the process.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it. Yeah. We believe Tower C was a part of that approval back in October. It
No.
was in the appendix, and it was part of like the all of presentations to public officials and in our RFA, et cetera. So that was our recollection of how that proposed inclusion. It was always 3 towers and with the number of hotel rooms.
Our record in the archive shows approval of Tower A and B in the certificates.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to check the
Yeah,
record, you're
okay.
invited to do that.
Okay. Got it. Understood.
Okay. Now, let's move on to the facade of the IR.
Sure.
We can maybe start with image, slide 59. I think I noted there were some good images there. Okay, now, let's start with the glass and the I was a little confused, and commissioners, you should chime in if you have specific
Sure.
questions. So I understand the blue is vision glass. There's no visibility from the areas that you have colored in green here. That's
Correct.
just glass, but it's opaque.
Correct.
So originally there was, in the original presentation of the IR,
Mhm.
there was, the team stated its intention that there would be food and beverage there,
Mhm.
and that there would be a possibility of visual access from that space looking across the green to to City Field. So I'm wondering, and that substantial change, and I'm going to ask you to walk us through in a minute the circulation, because it's not exactly clear either.
Okay. Yeah.
Why that changed and what was the intention there?
Sure, understood. Yeah, the F&B programs that spill out are the sports bar here and the restaurant. So through the blue, we're able to have that continuity. The green area is just to ensure that the facade from the exterior feels a cohesive element. Higher up in the different levels, in both these two levels, there are greater opportunities to have a connection to the park, et cetera. So we're exhausting as much as possible the places where there can be that connection, which is not too different from what we had prior.
Maybe I could just, I'm Joe Randall, maybe I could just also help address a few things. This area here, which there are two restaurants behind that area, which is potentially, there's gonna be finalized, but there's a noodle bar and there's an Asian restaurant as well. They will able to have outdoor dining along that area here. Over on this side, this is the sports book side here. And there'll be outdoor, of course, seasonal, there'll be outdoor dining along this area here. There are support areas here behind this. But also in addition to this other side, there is another venue here on the other side of the entrance from the park that will also have outdoor dining. It's master planned to come a little bit later. So there's three major restaurants that will have outdoor dining that need this area here, here, and here. Also, this whole top area also has restaurants as well. And there's several restaurants on this corner here. They will actually have a very good view of the park, whatever, a little bit more elevated than the others. But this whole area is here. And then this whole area here is all the pre-function area that is to the meeting space. So people coming along there enjoying and meeting and what have you, they'll be entering up in this area here. And some meeting spaces here and restaurant spaces here. So there's multiple levels of F&B views and experience. And the 3 or 4 major restaurants along the promenade will have outdoor dining as well, just for some additional clarification.
We appreciate that, but I think the question here is, and maybe this is a good time to thank you for that explanation, to talk about the circulation, because the original intention of your team, as described to us, would be that there was and I'm sure you still feel this way, thank you, that there would be an intimate connection between, you have this grand staircase, right? And then the kind of key point of this entire site, the connection between the IR and City Field, is that space above the stairs. And so when your team originally presented the scheme, the idea was that someone in a wheelchair with a stroller or any kind of ability to access space would be able to walk across this space, dine outdoors, enjoy this mezzanine as public space, as it was presented as public space. And this would be visible to those outside, connecting the public realm that the city of New York is sharing with this team and that big park to what's going on here, which was meant to be food and beverage. And then the other functions of that structure would be beyond. Now, the key point of visible connection between the public realm and the park, the public realm part of this site and the park is opaque. And that is fundamentally different than what was presented to this commission initially. So we would like you, and we brought this up many, many times. So I'm wondering if you could address that.
Well, I mean, I appreciate all those and, you know, the ability to see out It's just physically the functionality of the facility, where obviously internally there's an entertainment gaming facility. There has to be support areas around the perimeter of the building. And what that means is that some of this has to be in this area here, whether it's the support back of house or actually the restaurants that have the support kitchens are actually there. But to be honest with you, the experience of having dining across there, and also someone in a wheelchair now has full accessibility to get from point A to point B with the modification that was discussed earlier. So we hope actually to get as much dining space out here as possible. And I think that's going to be evolved. I think it's a nice area. The width of the promenade is enough that we can put tables along there and people can still pass by. And servers can also serve people. So I think that's going to be ultimately a great experience with a lot of activity. I know the chances of not seeing through here, it's just physically challenging to put all the support areas around the building to support, the entity of the business and what have you. And we maximize wherever we can. And we thought that opening up this top level also would actually add to that as well. I know it's not external, but a lot of people will be up there. There's multiple restaurants around this whole facility here on the upper level. So they will have view. And that view up there may be as dynamic or more so than even along here. So we're trying to create that balance of support space and still get the visual impact for people to enjoy the park, especially seasonally outside. But throughout the year, they'll be able to enjoy the exterior from that level as well.
So we understand the need for a back of house core. You have very fine architects, and this is a new structure. Back of house in many, many buildings isn't in front of the window in the most prominent spot in the building. So I'm wondering if you could address, Roberto, whether SHOP considered that it could be elsewhere. And so there could be that public connection that was promised to the public between the most prominent, there are grand stairs here that in effect need to know visual access. So I'm wondering if you could address why you weren't able to do it the way that was presented.
Of course, yeah. It is a tricky balance in the functioning of the facility. So one of the things that we wanted to ensure is that we had at least anchor points for F&B places. So we tried to place those within the main entry spaces. So here on the extreme north is a main entry. We wanted to ensure that it was anchored by F&B. And similarly on this side, since this is the main entry of the southeast and it's flanked on both sides, we could actually go to that render that it has F&B on both sides. That was the intent. This central space, we didn't necessarily want to advertise it as a main entry, but it is a key moment and it is mostly focused on the park. It's not really focused on the building proper. The revisions here, and I think the comments you guys provided were excellent, and I'm happy to walk you through how those work now. The idea is that those take you to the two main entry points, and this becomes kind of like a backstage moment. We saw that as the best kind of balance between advertising the right entry moments, the places where people would be, and along the whole colonnade or along these areas, we're able to have spill out, which really kind of animates the park. So that was the best approach to kind of balance those kind of competing elements, right, to service both the park and the impression that we gave the park, and that the facility was able to, function, which is a very internalized kind of building in that case.
Is it physically impossible to move? Is it beyond the skills of your firm to move that away from the window so there can be visual access there? I would like to know. Given that
it is incredibly challenging because it is tugging to both sides. So the best kind of like balance that we said is kind of like defining that central space as a backstage, not necessarily advertising it as the destination point into the building. That was our best attempt to kind of balance those two things, because it is really complicated. There's also a substantial amount of egress that we're trying to do and sort of make sure that it weaves into it. As you guys can see, there's sizable amount of stairs that go through there. So it is actually quite complicated to achieve something there. Sure.
Down here.
Uh-huh.
And maybe I just came out of a baseball game and I want to go up and check out this new place. What do I do?
Excellent. Yeah. So in terms of entering the IR, the amazing facility that is kind of like the destination point on the west, the two key points are this stair over here, which is again kind of like the main entry, leads you straight into the north entry, and then the big stairs that are over here that have the escalators.
So I want to be clear that I know you're looking at it, but in this elevation, you're not talking about these stairs that are the big stairs. We're talking about some other big stairs.
Those two are kind of like if you want to go in, those really are advertised as the main entries. This is more of a processional route, and I think that the nature of its design, since it's kind of like a kind of slightly Baroque kind of act of going meandering up, sort of leads you to that, but in a more, kind of ceremonial way of sorts. And it really is trying to give the importance to the stage, to the park, not to the building. That was one of the intents.
And I want to go up and check this out.
Yeah.
Walk me through here.
Oh, sure, definitely.
Yeah.
So you'd go up this stair, which is coming up into here, leads to a landing here, and then from there we've revised this stair to have two options and has a continuous route here. Maybe actually if we go to, I think it's two slides more. It's to the revised design, or a few more. Sorry. Here. Oh yeah, thanks so much. We go back just two more. There we go. Yeah, we have the before and after. So here we go. This is what we have now. So these stairs lead up here, and you have this idea of kind of like a switchback condition. So it provides many ways of navigating the full space while maintaining the whole continuity. So you can walk along the colonnade looking towards the park.
So this area is always open to the public, and I can walk across it. And how do I get up there?
You can get up there through the central kind of stairways, if yep, and also through the two big kind of stairs that I mentioned at the beginning.
And if I'm on either side of it,
you can walk through. Yeah, there's sorry to bother you, but in the prior one we have the kind of like the experience. Here we go. Those two kind of views. There you go. This is the connection. So you're now able to walk all along as that red line shows, north to south, from one side to the other. I believe that width should be 12 feet over here. And we thought like having this kind of like promontory moment straight on, it has that significance of being in the Shea Road axis.
this dimension is 12 feet.
This one is about 12 feet. This I think is 6 and 6 probably because of the curves. 5, yeah. 5.2, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, here we go.
Yes.
It's
So it's 5 feet.
Yeah. And our constraint here is, of course, the colonnade, which is kind of like set, and the interior continuous kind of glazing line. And the red, obviously, is really defined by the egress stairs, trying to like, make them as graceful as possible while meeting code. It's a complex system. I'm happy to walk you through, but it works. Sure.
Let's do this again.
Uh-huh.
I'm here.
Yep.
I see your giant stairs.
Mhm.
You're saying to me, this seems to be glass,
Mhm.
no, it's not glass, it's just opaque, and to be glass. And then we walk up here.
Uh-huh. So the route is through here with the option of either of these two stairs. And similarly from this one, having the option of these two stairs and then symmetrically on the other side.
So where are the restaurants in terms of what we're looking at
Over
now? Where
here.
are the restaurants?
The restaurant's over here, the sportsbook restaurant, and then the noodle bar is over on this.
And where's the outdoor seating for the restaurant?
All along this area.
So you have, and how wide is that?
This should be about 12 feet.
So if you have outdoor seating and you're in a wheelchair trying to pass that, then how much space do you have?
The outdoor seating will be limited. It won't take up the whole zone. So there will be still at least 5 feet
5
circulation,
feet.
at least.
Okay, sorry, I just want
No,
to
no.
understand.
Of course. Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, I go up here, I want to enter a restaurant, I can do it here,
Uh-huh.
I can do it here.
Uh-huh.
And I can see that there's
Mhm.
outdoor seating here and here.
Correct.
Do you think 5 feet is adequate amount of space for a facility of this scale?
We feel the route isn't necessarily the most natural route for someone to walk through, so it feels sufficient for the an anticipated amount of
How is
people.
it not natural, given that you're walking from one side to the other? What's not natural about that?
Probably You'd want to go into the facility or into the
But you
restaurants?
can't go into it, right? Here?
Mhm.
There's
Oh,
no entrance.
well, over on this side, there's the entrances to the restaurants and the facilities, and on the other end, so it's.
Right, but if I'm walking from this side to that side, which I think will be natural because many people will want to stand up here to see the view back to City Field.
That in a way is the destination. We have created a destination by creating this nice promontory. But for entry into the building, you'll have a faster entry into the building at either end, which is the main entry kind of sequence. So in that sense, it seemed, adequate. Yeah.
So in effect, I want to say, Roberta, you haven't really addressed any of our comments. I mean, the only thing that I feel that you have done since the last time we saw you is to make sure that there's this, that you can move there. And we do thank you and appreciate that now this is not fenced 24 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, the complexity of this system, the inadequately narrow width here is the same. Is it not?
Well, before we didn't have that. We didn't have that circulation. We feel your comment helped us a ton to make this an appealing space, but it is working within the constraints that we have, which unfortunately are tough. We have both the extents of the property line, which kind of limit us into how much we can extend outward. And similarly, the substantial amount of egress that we're trying to, resolve for as best as possible.
What do you mean the constraints of the property lines that you can?
So the
Right, now I understand where it is, but like, what would you do if you could? How would you, are you saying that if the property line were different, you could address our comments more adequately?
It may give us a bit more of a looser sweater to resolve the stairs. We feel that it does kind of keep in principle the design of this kind of symmetry that hugs the kind of central space here reminiscent of Shea Stadium. So it does cover that. It would just give us a bit more wiggle room. So I think within the constraint, it's sort of, we tried our best as possible to resolve the kind of comments we got in each respect, and also the really tough code constraints that are really driving a lot of these spaces.
Let's look at your fences again.
Sure.
Maybe it's 75. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one.
So these follow the same language of throughout the project, and obviously would be open most of the time, and it's for operational security purposes that the only instance where they would be closed.
What is the material, the vertical material supporting the steps?
Pardon me?
What are the verticals?
Do you mean this?
Yeah, what is
This,
that?
it is very much the same kind of language that we're doing with here with the metal elements, which has kind of an articulation that breaks up the scale a bit. So.
These are 1, 2, 3.
Oh, it's this one. Yeah, sorry. It's a version of that. It's very close to that one. 01. It's a very close to that one. We don't have that one, but we can bring it for the next time.
It's for space in the building.
Correct. Yes, and it was part of our submitted samples. Sorry. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the operational structure that will ensure that, like, what will it be? That how will the gates be deployed?
I think I defer to Joe. Yeah, on that one.
There are just gates that'll be remain open during the operation or when the park is open.
Park hours, right?
They'll be open during park all hours, and they'll be held up. They'll be held open, and they'll be open during park hours.
And if someone from DPR could just speak to what those hours would be. All right, she.
Yeah, we have to get back to you. We'll have to get back to you on that one.
I wonder if I could ask you, Eric, or you, Sheena, to just speak to your perspective on that element of the design. You can
As to when the gates would be open?
also just this way of managing the connection between the IR and the public.
I mean, a lot of our parks are managed in a way that certain areas are gated off. So long as it's managed in such a way that it's equitable and that they're open during park hours, we don't foresee an issue with something like this.
Park here, right?
Correct.
Who will be responsible for making sure that the gates remain open?
I mean, it's something that we'd probably have our Flushing Meadows Corona Park administrator be responsible for.
So that person will be, or whoever is in the leadership position there. will
Correct.
Tasks with overseeing that.
Well, at least ensuring that it's, they're meeting their requirement as to when the park hours to ensure that they're open.
Okay, so you're committing that these gates will be open as per parks direction. All right, so any more questions about this? I can summarize at the end.
I have a question.
Please,
Can you
yes.
just please go back to the plan that we were looking at earlier?
With the stairs?
The stairs.
Sure. This is the before and this is
Okay,
the
this
current
one.
proposed.
So that dark green, that's at elevation 28, I guess, is all of that circulation space? Is any of that like a place where someone can stand or sit and look back down over the park?
It is more circulation since it's trying to resolve getting up to the right points and the two egress, but it's definitely a public circulation
So
area.
you could stand here, say,
Yeah,
hang out.
it could be your route maybe like that. Say, it's providing a variety of routes for possible circulation.
And then where it says plus 40, right in the very center up at
Mhm.
elevation 40.
Oh, really?
Right, is there any way to make that more generous, just because, that is a lovely
No, I agree.
space, right? in
You're on
the
that.
center
Yeah.
To look back
Uh,
out.
We could probably take a look at, obviously these has some interesting kind of pinch points, but we could definitely try and see and maximize as much as possible that location. That could be a possibility.
I guess my biggest concern is this space with restaurants having tables. And if there's a disabled person, 5 feet is not very much. So if you have a disabled mom, let's say, with somebody pushing her and she has a child next to her who wants to hold her hand, 5 feet is not enough space. And if people are sitting, eating or whatever, I just think this is supposed to be a publicly accessible area. And I just don't think that that's enough space for circulation for somebody to walk, somebody who chooses to go from one side to another. It's just, this seems like a very tight space, 5 feet, or even for a family.
So what can we do?
How this area is defined as a seating area and circulation area can be developed further.
Can you gain some width in this 5-foot space by reorienting the plan?
Regardless, we've sort of exhausted the stairs, the stair width we need, so it's more about how this space is used where there's wiggle room, unfortunately.
So how would you address the problem that Ellen raises here?
Probably because there is no entry and this is pure circulation. It's easier to work with that 5'2" distance. There will be no seating in that zone.
Stroller
Yeah.
coming
Mhm.
from this side, right?
Mhm.
And there's another mom with the stroller coming that side. Who gets to go first? There's not room even for 2 mothers with strollers.
Great. Yeah, we are regrettably, we are limited in terms of the dimension of both structural elements, both the colonnade and the facade proper.
But this is a building that isn't built yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
So I don't understand if you're designing a building that's private for all the activities there, but it's
Mhm.
public. I think both things need to be considered. And so I understand all the restaurants and stuff.
Mhm.
But if people can't afford to go into the restaurants, but they're in the park and they just want to have the experience of being there, I think as the building is not built, that all needs to be considered.
Understood.
It isn't just the business, it's
Mhm.
also the public side. I think that really needs to be considered.
And we know that you are considering that because the whole reason for the city of New York even allowing this to happen in this space is to provide amenities for the public, not to provide a private business. So 5 feet,
Mhm.
as Ellen points out, is not wide enough
Okay,
for the public.
understood. Since this is a recent revision, we can look at options to how to maximize that while maintaining the egress widths that are required as we refine this further.
Well, it's not really a recent provision we've been at.
Yeah, no,
looking at
understood.
these as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
kind of circulation spine for a long time,
Understood.
since the beginning of your first presentation.
Understood.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we just go back? I don't know if we could, maybe we can slightly increase that, if we can move egress around a little bit on that upper stairs and see if we can move that slightly bigger and see if we can accommodate it by egress and we can push things a little elsewhere. There's a ton of egress coming out here, but why don't we just double check that and see if we can make it slightly wider along that route that's 5 feet.
Wondering if someone, Eric, or perhaps you could give us, what would park standards be in a very, very dense, high population circulation area where you have traffic going in 2 directions? What would the, let's say, minimum path width?
I mean, if it were us developing this for a park facility,
Yeah.
I think it would probably be at least double, at least 10 feet.
So that would be a good benchmark for you guys to follow. Because it will be, that is what the public is getting here. And as Commissioner Talvin points out, most people will not be going into the facility. And the kind of beauty of the scheme that you have created is this spine from which you can look back at the park, you can look back at City Field, you can experience the history of our city, the history of the sport, you can look back at Queen's future. This is the spot where most people are going to want to be. And it's not wide enough now for safety.
Understood. We can, as Joe mentioned, we'll go back and see for options there.
To accommodate that, I mean, would we be open to looking at everything that you see in pink there? I mean, the stairs that go from 28
Yeah.
down. Like,
Yeah.
instead of treating that as fixed, because we've seen it
Mhm.
over and over, if that needs to be adjusted, like to look at this holistically, everything that's in green.
I mean, maybe someone could speak to the implications. We understand that that's the map boundary.
Mhm.
And so in some ways you inherited like a predetermined footprint.
Mhm.
To what extent does that predetermine, and maybe you don't, maybe parks should be answering this, I don't know. Need to define your design.
Understood. Well, the DMAP in Rhine was sort of based on this design, since the intent was to anchor it on the idea of where Shea Stadium second base was, et cetera. So it sort of stems from that. And we worked through that to define that
So
those extents.
if you
Mhm.
as the designers
Mhm.
and the team were to come up with a scheme that's slightly different from that footprint, but allowed for the kind of public, gracious public space that we all of us would like to see here, what would the implications of that be? Do you know the answer to that question?
So I think that's the alienated boundary. So they definitely,
Has to maintain that.
they have to maintain it. They'd have to push their facade back.
Well,
It also looks like the clear egress width that goes from level 40 to 28, if you cumulatively add up those 4 stairs, is narrower than, is less than what goes from 28 down to
There's
9.
additional egress points here that add up and drive that requirement. So it's
So
both
those are already at
those plus those. Yeah, it's just
That's what that is.
that's what drives that dimension.
So those cannot get narrow. The ones that go from 28.
No, but we'll definitely, we can
Okay.
look further into as Joe noted.
So,
We also go back to
Yes.
the question of the opaque glass, the opaque
Yes.
and then the,
yes.
so the only thing that I saw in this is that, again, if you're in the park and you can now see the restaurant and there were restaurants up there, but as, again, the person who's in the park, I mean, it's the main part of where you're seeing the park as a person, one of those little people, is become opaque.
Yes.
Is there, because it's so kind of us and them in a way. You know, when you think about like, you know, whatever it's called, in the center of London, is there no way that you could do some that's opaque, but some that's a little more, there's a little more clarity to just to show something, because it's really kind of just very off-putting in a way to say, okay, this is, you can't see anything. And then you can just see where people who can afford to eat in these places are. It's really just, again, thinking about people who are never going to get into this building to be able to eat or gamble or whatever you do. I just think having that much opaqueness is very foreboding. Foreboding isn't the right word, but I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Obviously, these stairs are inviting you to come in and look at that,
Right.
and that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it's a counterintuitive in the most extreme way,
Got it.
which I'm surprised
Uh-huh.
by that.
Yeah. Our thinking was that it's conducive to go to the ends, and the central element space here now is that place to look backwards towards back toward the park. That promontory is the destination more than the building, and trying to balance, of course, as noted, what's happening on the inside of the building, which is tough to balance. So we had to pick where we could create those moments that works for both the inside and the
But you could
entry locations.
maybe do halfway or something, because exactly what you're saying, you're thinking that what's inviting are the restaurants. And in other words, if you're not going there, you're not real, you can come and stand there, but it's just, as the public person, it's really not inviting, because the main part of the building that you're going to see is impenetrable.
Could I try to provide a little broader context to this condition? If you go to slide 19, just noting that this facade, that portion that you were looking at was just this area here.
Right.
But it's part of a much broader facade, which if you could keep it on the full expanse, actually, that was helpful. Note, if you zoom out, I want to provide the larger context. You're looking at this condition, but it's situated with a much broader condition, and these are the areas that are active. We've kind of designated zones that are a bit more inviting, a bit more active, that have broader spaces for food and beverage, broader spaces for passage. This is the area that is designated to not be as active. You know what I mean? And when you design a building, it's a balance between certain areas that get all the attention, and the other areas that get less. And so
I understand.
That's kind of that
I
balance.
understand that, but I also think a lot of people will be in that central area.
No,
They're not going to want to
Yeah.
be.
But
where
that's why
the
these
activity is.
entrances are so broad, big, transparent. These are the areas that they're also more lit. These are the areas that are meant to be inviting, to get you up, to experience to be here without having to participate with anything that's in there.
Your teams are all exceptional designers, and you all know that human beings tend to move about through public space in ways that are intuitive. So us saying that that's the active space doesn't really make it so. Actually, this is the center of the park. That's the fact. It is the center, right? Here's City Field. Here's the IR. This is the center of your site. That's why this circle is here. And everyone who comes out of the subway is gonna look at that and go right there. So what you have is a giant stair that invites people to come up and look. And then you look up and you can see nothing. And saying that this is a zone or that's a zone, that's fine. But in fact, that's not how human beings use space. So what I'm wondering is, following on Ellen's comment, is there, let's go back to slide 75 now. And I think we should all remember that. Now, there are restaurants up here. I imagine they're quite exclusive and expensive. I don't know about the condition of these. If I want to grab a bite, where am I doing that here? And what, and how is that not something that I would think you could do there?
The areas for grabbing a bite are in the casino here and here. They're also in the other portions of the campus, Taste of Queens, City Field. It's just not there.
Can you go back to the plan that shows the dimensions across the site?
Yes,
Yeah,
19,
it has the,
19, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want?
All right, oh, I think there's one with dimensions in red.
there we go, yeah.
Right, so doing the quick math here, right? I don't know, is it 800, is this east? Is this oriented north?
Yeah.
Right, so east, west, I don't know, do we have like 800 feet or so across? And then can you go back to, okay, right there. So, I know the architects were saying, it's just, a jigsaw puzzle, you're trying to fit all these pieces. Obviously like the zone against the glass, there's a lot of complicated programming and egress, the restaurants and things. But across 800 feet behind that dead facade, you've got to be able to kind of push and pull a bit to somehow find at least some depth there that brings that alive at that central spot, right in the very center of your building. And I think, we're sort of asking this sort of from the sort of public visitor point of view, but I think that it would also benefit the project as a whole and the visitors to the resort, for this 4 city block long facade to be activated all the way along, not just primarily at the ends.
I mean, when you were saying earlier, this circulation spine here, which is probably arguably one of the most important, easily arguable in the entire site, is 5 feet wide. 5 feet. The size of that. It's out of scale. It's just not the right scale. And it's probably not safe. We wouldn't want you to feel that you had to close that off to the public because later on, because it wasn't safe. We want to make sure it's safe.
James, can you also explain the potential activity in that area where it was designated for an area where we have outdoor performance or outdoor event?
Yeah.
That's the other reason why this cascading stair and this event lawn was proposed.
Yeah, Joe's asking us to talk about this space here, which is part of the public realm submission. The park is looked at a sequence of programs. It's not kind of consistent across its entire length. This particular zone is meant to be a flexible recreation zone day to day, but during times there would be an event, and that would be the back of house or setup for the stage or the performance venue. That's the original concept for kind of creating this embrace. And the architectural is mostly a formal setup to kind of just hold that space during that time. So again, these were the kind of more active zones, food and beverage relating to the primary entrances and active zones of the rotunda and Northfield. And then this was more meant to be a park situation. That was the setup for that of that particular zone.
Oh, we hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
We hear you. No,
So where is the restroom for people who are just talking about if that's.
Yeah, there's a large restroom provided underneath this entrance and area here, right next to the playground.
I will summarize these points, but we have other aspects of this scheme to move through unless we two have comments on the facade. Okay, let's move to the Roosevelt Avenue massing. The parking spaces. This is a change from what we saw before. Commissioners, do you have comments on this? This wasn't revised since our last set of comments.
Nice. So this is the current, or is the other one the current?
This,
This is the current. We also provided an alternate which has a setback massing for this area to try and mitigate its expression on the arrival point from Corona. I think it's slide 136, if I remember correctly, just for context.
from the last time we saw, what was the increase in height, Roberto, with the addition of those extra parking spaces?
It's 1 floor, about like 11% increase in height. And that's to a move that was required because we absorbed the drive aisle that was prior outside. So in doing so, we had to reassess how the parking worked to meet the parking spaces that are required there.
But we had requested that you move them elsewhere.
Yeah, we looked at options. Unfortunately, it's difficult on Northfield and Southfield. It would increase an additional floor in either of those structures. It would hinder the surrounding developments, including residential in that area. And they're also in a critical path situation there. On the Taste of Queens, it would be probably harder to make it integrated because it's a smaller garage. It would require multiple levels of increase on a park-on ramp that's already at 6 floors, which is kind of like the operational limit of that. So this is the best spot to resolve the issue and not create a problem in other locations. That other slide, let me check where it was. I believe it was 136, but if not, it's yeah. Oh, there it is. Sorry. So we understand and we know that this path, even though we're setting back the building 60 feet, it is important to create a more welcoming experience when you're walking from Corona or East Elmhurst. So we thought this slightly revised massing kind of creates a more normal way of engaging the building, which is orthogonal.
What is typical for a parking structure like this? How many floors?
Yeah, this is, I was like looking down at my notes. What are we looking at here?
This is what we propose to mitigate the increase in height and create a much more welcoming experience here. Yeah.
So this is totally new.
I believe we had it in the last one, but yeah, this is our attempt to mitigate that expression because the chamfered edge is quite frontal.
It is.
To your arrival sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one kind of, we meet the parking criteria, we absorb the drive aisle, we're within our limits, and hopefully it's a better impression when walking down Roosevelt to the east. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah. It was a clean way to resolve that area. So we found this opportunity to try and, break the scale of the building in some form. Yeah. We're trying. We're doing our best.
It's better.
Okay.
I mean, this is the main entrance from Corona, and the community is going to be a heavy user of the park.
Mhm.
So that entrance, having idling vehicles there was never a possibility.
Yeah.
So, the fact that we asked you to move that, I think, it's obviously needed.
Yeah, no.
Because you can't have young families walking by.
Understood.
idling.
Yeah, no, we would concur. This is a much better condition that we're on, and we appreciate the comments. Thanks.
All right.
I think it relates better to the towers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, okay.
All right, I'm okay with this. We can move on if you do.
Mhm.
It's okay.
I'd like to move to the overhang by Shea Road that you were talking about, the cladding.
Correct, yeah. I think our visuals do not reflect it. We will definitely come back on 922 with the correct visuals that have cladding, but Yeah, so the intent would be to have, similar to the Pro Crochet, a nice cladding and lighting concept for both the underside of the ramp and for the side of the ramp that is in kind with what the surrounding building is. Uh-huh.
To study whether the ramp could be absorbed into the structure, because we feel that the overhang over this public walkway is unnecessary and compromises the public experience of that space, and this is not that.
Okay. Understood. With the cladding, we could also bring an option that addresses that issue, looking into how it can be absorbed. We started, it's complex. It's one of those things because all these, this is like a Swiss clock.
Yeah.
But we can definitely look further into it when we submit this with the right cladding as well.
We'd like to see that absorbed.
Sure.
So that people who are using this park and these bike lanes don't have this looming piece of
Understood.
architecture over their head.
Understood.
And then let's move to the Port Crochet. We have notes on the Port Crochet.
I think there was this one, but
Oh, no, that was it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, no, I think what we're gonna look at now is the escalator.
Okay.
Okay, so what we had asked was whether you had studied more than one escalator each one way, given that most people would take the escalator and not the stairs.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a lot of movement
Yeah.
up in that direction into the IR.
Got it. We wanted a confirmation on what the comment was and understanding that. This again is one of those ones where the sweater's kind of tight. The stairs proper are the egress width that's required. And the remainder element is the stairs, which is sort of our limit because of the demapping zone. We could probably operationally make sure that on times when more people will be going up or down, change the direction as like movie theaters, etc. But unfortunately, we are limited in the width that we're able to achieve here. We don't have space for another set of escalators.
How is it that you don't have space? in your budget?
It's again, I think if we go to 19, I think that might have the demapping line. We're really hugging the demapping line within that space. So, yeah, the demapping line really is very tight with this. And then the escalators are really slotting into that space with this minimal green boundary on their edges.
You explain, and maybe, I mean,
Sure.
excuse my ignorance about this, but given that width and the narrowness of escalators, why is it that you can't have other escalators?
It's really the pinch point is here, which is where also the demapping line sits. So we really are like meeting our egress width and then the amount of escalators that could fit.
That width can't be expanded at the top?
No, that's the bottleneck that unfortunately is there.
Do you need to have, you have two sets of stairs? Is there no way to have one slightly larger set of stairs to allow for escalators at either side?
Unfortunately, no, because it's really like we're counting every inch of egress that's required on that zone. We're even already using this bridge to alleviate the width. So we've exhausted our options for egress width. Unfortunately, there is no space. We could take a look to see if there's a third one, but I think we have to remove the nice green landscaped edges that you can see in the render.
Can we see the slide before that you showed?
Yeah, the prior one is already. Oh. It's in the around 40-ish, I believe, is where the renders are.
It's just the one that you were showing with
Yeah.
the stairs and the escalator.
There you go. Yeah. So it's only this green buffer that we have as a limit, but we do feel that it helps the expression of it. It's a lot of stair, and we wanted to at least mitigate the width with that green edge.
So the stair, and I'm not an architect, but the stairs that you have are the stairs that are absolutely required as a minimum?
For egress, yes. Unfortunately, it is quite a large amount on both sides. And even the arrangement of splitting it is to mitigate the expression of a lot of egress.
Shift some of that width to the stair that's south of the F&B The other stair that's,
The daycare area?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that one is also at the limit. Maybe we could get like 2 more feet at the most, but it unfortunately is not enough for an escalator. Yeah, because we also want an escalator that to the point of comfort dimensions that is of the right size. So it is very tight, unfortunately.
The size of the stairs you see might belie the volume of people that might be coming up or down here at a single point. Is the concern that you want to maximize flow up and down? Is that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's
But
where you're concerned.
we can look into that, but
You know, if something breaks down, then.
right.
Yeah.
Any more on this?
No, I think just having this, with all these people that are, if this is the requirement for steps and you have one escalator going, to me, that's not so safe is
I
what
think-
I would worry about.
This is a emergency exit only, so it wouldn't.
Right,
be
it's
used-
emergency exit. And if,
Yeah, you
let's say
can't
somebody has a
use-
bomb.
You can't use escalators during an emergency. So I think that's what I was trying to say, that these stairs appear large to convey that there might be a multitude of folks moving in en masse at any single point, but I don't think that's the situation. It's just in inclement moments that would be fully maximized. I personally, professionally, I think there might be an issue of having 4 escalators here permanently. That's a substantial footprint, especially given
Well,
that
they
it
don't
may not be used.
They don't necessarily have to be there. That's
Yeah.
where you've designed them, but you're designing this building and you can put them on the ends too. It doesn't, the staircase could be in the middle. And so,
Yeah.
we're looking at this
Right.
design, but
Yeah,
this is a design phase,
yeah.
so.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay. Any more comments? Okay, I'm going to summarize our comments and to note that the PDC staff, as per always, will aggregate all of this conversation, our comments, and then share with our parks liaison. You will receive them that way. As we started, we feel the daycare center is a great improvement. We thank you for that. As I stated, I'm going to go in the order that we spoke of things. If you would like to receive approval for a new master plan, you're invited to resubmit a master plan that includes Tower C, which was not part of the original approval, which only included A and B. We invite you to submit that. We can start again with that master plan. Regarding the east facade, we restate our comment regarding let's look at the plan while we talk about the east facade. Let's just look at it. It was 19.
Yeah, 19 has a whole.
Yeah. I want to compliment the design here. What you have created is an amazing space between what will be 2 enormous buildings. And the center is right here. So we're really urging the team to take this seriously as a public space. That's our concern in the Public Design Commission. And we know that many users of the park will not be able to use the IR, and they should still enjoy the benefits of the agreements that our city has made on the behalf of its residents and citizens. So we want to make sure that when you see big stairs here that seem to be inviting you up, that the space that you land on top of the stairs is safe. And that it's a wonderful public experience that will be one day like, being on the deck of the Empire State Building, right? Like you'll get up there, you'll look back at the stadium, this beautiful historic baseball stadium. Want to make sure that what we end up with here is what we deserve as a city. And so we urge you to we're urging you to address the opaque glass. It's a new building, as Commissioner Talbot stated, this is a very big space and you have a very skilled team. So we ask you to think about consistency there rethink the plan to only have translucency in private spaces at the top. Second, we ask you again to look at the viability, safety, and usability of that spine that goes across 800 feet, and it's 5 feet. It's the width of this table. Okay, this table is 5 feet wide. Stroller, person, wheelchair. You can't do it. So we ask you to rethink that as we had before. And then we would like to make sure that the operations of the security fence are clear. And that Parks feels comfortable with that agreement. And then finally, we appreciate the reduced massing on the corner of the parking lot and the kind of cutting back of the chamfer. It's more welcoming, and thank you for that revision in response to our comment. We are asking you, as we have before, again, to absorb that overhang into the structure so that the pedestrian space doesn't feel like an afterthought and it's covered over in the way that it is currently. And we hear you on the south staircase and the escalators. We're not designing this, so we accept your perspective on what the regs require vis-a-vis egress. But again, want to know that it's a very, very large staircase with very small escalators on which many people will rely. So even just thinking about the operations of the IR and the crowds that will gather at both the bottom and the top of the escalator and safety concerns there, we ask you to think about whether there's something that you could do to make that more gracious. And so you'll be receiving all of those comments from the staff, and then they will direct you on next steps.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your comments. Thanks. Appreciate it.
With preliminary review of the construction of Bella Atsu Park, blocks 4 and 5, including shared streets and Fountain Plaza, and block 6, including a playground, restroom building, and maintenance and operations building located on 10th and 11th Avenues between West 36th and West 39th Street in Manhattan. We will not hear public testimony or vote on this project today per standard committee meeting procedure. If you'd like to submit written testimony on this project, Please email the commission at designcommission@cityhall.nyc.gov. It will be distributed to commissioners and saved for the record. And I just want to state again, as I stated earlier, that we only hear public testimony for items upon which we are voting in the public hearing portion of the meeting. So I thank those of you who came today to testify, and we welcome your comments via email at designcommission@cityhall.nyc.gov. Okay, with that, presenters, you may begin and welcome. Final phase of Bella Athletic Park. My name is Angela Cavaluzzi. I'm the president of Hudson Yards Development Corporation. HYDC is the city entity that is charged with implementing the park and number 7 subway extension. It was part of the master plan and zoning for the area. It was a large Hudson Yards district, mixed use district that was from 8th Avenue to 11th Avenue, 30th Street north to 42nd Street, where we allowed for more housing, office space, and part of that, the crucial component of that's the park. And that's also the community, the park, and also office building. Oh, sorry. And so next, okay, sorry about that. So this is the blocks 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3 have already been built and part of block 4. So we're here today to talk to you about the portion of other part of block 4, 5, and 6. As you can see, it was in the mid-block park that was created between 10th and 11th Avenues. It created a connection to the community. This was programmed and we this different programs and a destination for the area. We worked in collaboration with DOT and Parks. We also worked with the community board who helped program it and a list of recommendations. And you've seen their advisory recommendations. Also, the bid, which was created in able to maintain all of the southern belt to operating the park, maintaining and operating the park, as well as helping to program different park elements. And we're very excited about programming this new part of the park. The last phase, next, Liz. So just to show you a little bit up close, it's the park, this part of the park was the most challenging. It's a deck overbuild over an Amtrak rail line that's active. There's a ramp on one side that's not part of the park property, but does allow trucks to go underneath the park for use by the Amtrak. And part of that was a challenge, as well as development is occurring along the north-south Amtrak rail line corridor. There's more ventilation requirements needed, so we needed also a fan plan as part of that. And then some of the other changes were, there was a competition in 2008, which initially had created the programming elements. This area, which Liz will talk about, changed a little bit more, but part of it was we needed also a larger maintenance facility. The PEP officers needed more room and locker rooms as part of their requirements. And we also had, we added another public restroom, which wasn't part of the original idea. And with that, we created this greenway, turning this one right now, which is an industrial corridor, transit corridor, and it's going to be turned into a vibrant green oasis. And Liz Silver, who's worked on the project for a very long time and is a design principal at NVDA, will tell you how she did it. Okay, thanks.
So as Angela said, this is part of a 6-block master plan that began as a competition in 2008. And the big thing to think about here is the challenge was, how do you create 6 blocks that are separated by streets that feel like one continuous park, but still have the interest that they need to have? And so the approach that we took was one of variety and continuity. So there's a variety of programs from one block to the next, but there's a continuity of material language. So it's all these sort of bean-shaped forms, all the vertical elements are in the plant beds. There's lush planting, there's a sense of interiority to the blocks because they're quite small. And then there are specific materials that are repeated. There are granite pavers, there are benches that line the plant beds because you just need tons and tons of seating here. And then there are things that identify this place as a city park, like standard city light poles. So you walk in and you're like, oh, I see that. That makes me know I'm in New York and in a park. So here are some images of we're now in the north part, the blocks, east part of 4, 5, and 6, and what the site looks like. Angela mentioned how this is a site that doesn't really exist. We have to create it because there is this cut here. And again, just to give you a little bit of sense of that, the pink is the Amtrak right-of-way that runs through these blocks. And then this is the red is the park boundaries. So you park and boulevard boundaries. So you can see how there are all these overlapping needs that come into play as we're working on the design. We've been working on this for a long time and it's undergone some changes, but one of the most important ones is that basically from the very first community board meeting, there were members who got up and said, why do we have all of these streets? We don't need north-south road, we don't want them, we want parks. And of course the city said, well, you need some streets, people have to be able to get places, you've got to have entrances to buildings. But they've really advocated for as much parkland as they can get because these blocks are not really that big. And so this is where we were back in March of 2023 with blocks 5 and block 6. And eventually what happened is the community board was able to successfully work with DOT for shared streets, which was a great compromise to have the road access that you need, but also to expand the park space. And these shared streets in orange are streets that hadn't been built yet. So they're the first permanent shared streets that are being made in the city. And we've been working with DOT on a design that everyone feels is workable for this area. So this is where we are now with the shared street on the completion of block 4, block 5 being reworked to incorporate the shared streets, and then block 6, which doesn't need to have shared streets because it is all park anyway, and the fan plant, which allows block 6 and block 5 to exist because you need that to build over Amtrak.
Excuse me, Liz, you have
Yes.
about 5 minutes.
Okay. And so for the other 70 slides, we'll go back. So that was all the background, and I think I can just show you things now. So block 4, this is the shared street that we're doing on block 4, and a detail of it with all of the materials, standard New York City materials, and then materials that also relate to the park itself so that it's, again, a mix. Here's what they all look like together. And then this is pretty far along the design, so we have grading and drainage worked through, and then some views of what this is looking like. And really the intention is to make it feel like it's a piece of the park, slow traffic down through curvilinear streets, and speed bumps at the entrances, looking from the south to the north. Block 5, where we redesigned the entire block to incorporate the shared streets. This block has a civic fountain in the middle, and then we've incorporated this woodland walkthrough, which again was something that the community was asking for. They wanted a real nature feeling walk space. So we created an interior in this small block that you could walk through and feel like you were in nature in the city. And then actually when you added the shared streets, it gave it enough boundedness to feel quite good. This is partially over structure. So again, part of the drainage is the drainage dealing with the structure, and part is the regular city drainage, grading. You can see what the section looks like. And then a view from the south, you can see that the civic fountain is sort of hidden there amongst the trees as you're entering the woodland walk. And then from north looking south. And this is the second introduction of the use of the marble materials. This is on block 4. We extended it into block 5 and then block 6 as well. These are the standard benches, the pavers that are throughout the park. And then the shared streets that bound this park on block 5. And I'm going to go through these pretty fast, but these are all the way you can see the materials laying out. And these are the same materials that we were using in the first 3 blocks as well. So the pavers, standard New York City, Sparklecrete median New York City concrete, and then landmark gray for the shared streets. Lots of seating, the benches that I referred to with companion seating, movable chairs and tables, and then this block seating as well. That's been arranged so that there are places where you can lean back as well and enjoy them that way. Railings, fences, gates, railings everywhere to protect the plant beds, trash receptacles, and then a rich array of deciduous, evergreen, and understory trees, so it feels like a very lush planting. And this is drawing from the plant palette from the first 3 blocks. New York City lighting, the pedestrian pole, and the street pole. Okay, block 6. So block 6 has the maintenance and operations building as well as the public restroom building. And the maintenance and operations building is here underneath the north end and the park comes up onto the roof of it. And it helps to protect the park from the activity of 39th Street, which is the tunnel entrance. And then we have the public bathroom here, which again, we're using the roof to make this ruin walk, which incorporates facade materials from buildings in the neighborhood. And all of this helps to create an important accessible access throughout the park. We have major playgrounds here, the 2 to 5-year-old Overlook playground, and then we have the 5 to 12-year-old playground north and south and connecting towers. Again, the grading and drainage, so you have a sense of how this is working, but generally we're low on the south, rising up to the north, coming down to an access point on the east here and an access point on the west here. This is a ramp. So there was a lot of grading work to make sure you had access from as many places as possible. And then these are always open, these north-south passages on the east and west sides. Okay, accessibility. The green lines are this is not playground accessibility, this is just general park walk accessibility. So these are the accessible routes through the park, and you can see that you can get to all the major spaces. This woodland walk is a continuation of what was happening in block 5 and block 4. And this pedestrian bridge takes you to the ruin walk and into the playground here. So you have multiple places of getting in at different levels. There's a lot of work that went into thinking carefully about the controlled access to make sure that it made sense for kids and grown-ups and plants. So I could go into this more detail if there are questions about it, but that's been thought through quite carefully. And then again, the continuation of the paving materials from the other blocks with the woodland walk with these pavers, the seating, same language of seating that we're using in other places, some with backs and armrests, some movable, some seat walls, depending on where you are. The seat wall at the top, guardrails, handrails, more plant rails. Drinking fountains north and south, and trash receptacles, and again making this a very rich planted area, which it's so small, making it feel like you're in a like the most luscious park setting seems like one of the priorities here. There's one exception on the lighting here, this multi-headed pole. Because of the elevation changes, we needed one other piece of lighting. And then these are massing studies for the playground. They're not the full design. I know there's some questions about transparency. The models just like conflated things, so you can't see through them as well, but they're used really for play counts and understanding what elements are where. So we added some trees to help everybody understand how this feels a little bit more in the park setting. And then looking from the southeast towards the northwest. Again, you can see how the buildings just get absorbed into the trees, and the playground's really in this very natural setting. And these are examples of similar pieces of equipment from this manufacturer, so you can have a sense of what the materiality really would be once it was constructed. And then all of this is that there are many requirements for different types of play at different elevations. And so these diagrams with all of these notes are to make sure we have enough of those pieces at different places so that kids have a full range of experiences. And so we were, like mapping the notes back and forth between here and the diagrams. And we have, and we reviewed this in detail with a a play consultant as well as with the Parks Department. The green lines are accessible routes within the play features, and the blue areas are turnaround spaces. So like this one connects to the ruin walk. So you have that accessible entrance, and then this suspension bridge, which is accessible, and then this takes you down a slide, which is also accessible. And then this is a whole ramped accessible area within the fire truck. The theme of these is New York. So it's like New York buildings with water towers and fire stations and the random things that you find in upper levels of buildings. In this neighborhood, there are stables on upper levels, so we added a horse into one of these as a little reminiscent thing. And you can see the circulation coming across the bridge to the top of the ruin walk into the office tower, across this bridge. Here's a turnaround. You can come down a slide. You can make your way down through these other areas. And similarly with the Gorky towers. And some of these are wheelchair accessible. Some of them are accessible in other ways, depending on the level of challenge that a child is looking for. This is the 2 to 5-year-old play area, fully enclosed at the north end of the park. We have wood chips there, and then in the 5 to 12-year-old areas, we have poured in place surface. And we have shade structures. And we have an elevated walk, which helps with the accessibility. Sections. Have I overstepped my 5 minutes yet? All right. You can see the south to north with the maintenance facility underneath the park here, helping us with the elevation. This is a view look from north looking south towards the suspension bridge and the play towers. This is entering from the south looking north, coming underneath this bridge with the bathroom, the public bathroom building on the right. And then the buildings, just quickly, they are an integral part of the project, and we're really grateful that they're here. There's always been planned a maintenance building on the north end because there needs to be maintenance for this park. They need a place to keep things. And then we also were using that elevation as, at the time, there was a vision for a bridge that took off north to Times Square, and this was the launching point for it. But it actually is a really wonderful way to get topography and to protect you from all the noise and activity on 39th Street. The community asked for something that really connected with rock outcroppings. That was the thing that they used, the terminology they used. So we thought about bringing the marble into this public restroom building, so it didn't just feel like a bathroom on the corner, but it felt like this object of rock and connected to the natural idea that they were asking for. And then we were incorporating Core-10 into the maintenance building, again, to have these like earthy tones, and they have things not feel like buildings, but feel like they're part of the park. So here are some views of that. And we've done a lot of work to break up the facade and make sure there's always in-plant beds or draining into a gravel slot. And you can see how it's arranged underneath the play area. This is the bathroom building. And this layout of stones was based on going to the actual quarry, seeing what material they had. This is material that they don't really want to use for other things because they usually make things into countertops. So this is stuff that's just in their yard. And it's still great material, but it can be totally repurposed for something else. Oops. Yeah. Here's the layout of the ruin walk. And those are the building materials and park materials together. Those are the building materials and park materials together. Sorry. And there we are. Okay. So thank you for seeing us today, and please, any questions or comments?
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. I know it's a very complex space, but it's very well developed. So thank you. We had a couple of comments, some of which have already made their way to you, but I just wanted to explain them a little bit more. The first one has to do with circulation on block 5, specifically along the Share Street to the, I guess it's the east.
Yes.
Our main concern is that the way the planting beds are organized, they don't provide a continuous sidewalk along the eastern edge of the park. You're basically pushed out to walk on the shared street, which we know is shared, But given this is, an unprecedented installation for New York City, we also want to be careful that people understand where they're going and that there's clarity in circulation. Because there is a crosswalk coming from across 38, that crosswalk kind of takes you, yes, directly into a planting bed. And it is here. Yes, I think it's a little bit confusing to the user that may not be familiar with that space, where to go, whether, they are okay to walk on the shared street or not, or whether they need to take the other more circuitous path through the interior of the park. So just a strong recommendation, if the planting bed can be pushed back just a little bit and create just a little sliver of a sidewalk that is more visually connected to the crosswalk, I think that would go a long way to prevent just confusion of where people are supposed to walk and go.
I mean, I wonder if we could actually just enlarge it in this direction. So you either are coming this way or you're taking the sidewalk over here, and it's one of the two.
That could
It sounds like your question is like this little triangle felt like it was unclear.
Exactly. It's like almost you're going, you're taking the crosswalk, you're walking through, and then suddenly your sidewalk ends.
All right.
Yeah. It is true on both sides. I think on the west, you have a little sliver of a sidewalk there.
Yes, on this side, we actually added in. So on the west side, there is not actually a sidewalk on the west side of the shared street because there's a wall there. So we added in another shared street adjacent north-south route. But on the east, we felt like this sidewalk was sufficient, and then you had the central route. But I can see what your concern is right here.
Exactly.
And needing to adjust that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think even a sliver of a sidewalk, the minimum dimension possible will help just over closing.
I think we would probably close it because otherwise it may not be clear with the size of these blocks, but they're just, everything is really small.
They're very, the other option is to switch the planting bed orientation a little bit to open up that path through the interior, make it more evident.
Right.
Something like that. So that's one comment. The next one, I think the majority of my other comments are on block 6. So if you want to go to a more zoomed in plan there. But they basically have to do with the accessible routes. And again, we understand the topography of the site is quite complex. But specifically, as you get to the ruin walk, it seems like a bit of a dead end for someone with disabilities because the entire route is accessible until then, and then you need to turn around. So did you study any other alternative way to exit that area or signage that may help someone with disabilities understand they need to turn around?
We can study signage. There's not without. I think that if you were to not have this, put it a different way, what this access is creating playground accessibility, which you wouldn't have otherwise. So if we were to say, fine, that's too confusing, cut this off, don't have this, then there would be a major loss in play accessibility. What this allows for is for a child in a wheelchair to get into this tower, play at a second level and not just on the ground, take a bridge, take a slide. And so that was really what we were trying to do here. If you're an adult or if you're a child who doesn't want to go into the play area, then you do have to turn around and go back. And if signage isn't acceptable way of handling that, we can certainly incorporate that signage into it. But I do feel like it would be a loss to the play value for a lot of kids if they didn't have that.
Yeah, and we're not meaning to imply that this should be eliminated. It's more a concern about understanding the route and understanding that
you don't get to the end and you're like, what do I do now?
It's a long way and it's not visually apparent once you take the bridge that there isn't a way out. So I don't know if signage is a solution. Our other recommendation is that you also consult with the mayor's office of people with disabilities just to see if they have any other suggestions that may make it more evident. So it doesn't feel like
you don't want to be disappointed when you get there.
Disappointed, exactly.
Or inconvenienced. That makes total sense. We have tried to make this into a place that you want to be. So it is a destination that's not like or the end of a hallway, and you're just like, oh, what do I do now? It's a garden in and of itself that you would enjoy being in, and there's space to turn around. But I do understand that you could be like going a long way and then have to retrace your steps.
Or the opposite, that you see it and you want to go there and you can't figure out how
Yes.
to,
Yes.
because the access point, it's not visually apparent.
Right. So just to answer your question about if we had studied it, to make a 5%, this is basically the length that's required to get to this elevation, which is not so different from here.
Yeah.
It's pretty close. So you need a very long way to get there at the required grades. This one is ramped, and things are a little bit higher over here. So it's hard to add more ramping or accessible pathways to make it work. We would absolutely do that if we could. So if the signage conversation and the meeting is an acceptable approach, that would be
Yeah, I think I can
helpful.
think about it, but it would be super helpful to get also the mayor's office eyes on it. They have a lot of great suggestions about things like this. And what we want to ensure of is that it also, doesn't get built and then there's a concern raised by a member of the community that this is thoroughly, inclusive to everyone.
Right.
That's the extent of my comments for now.
Okay, thank you.
This is a really exciting project. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. My questions have to do with some clarification on block 6 and the play equipment.
Okay.
So I think these play towers, they're incredibly ambitious and exciting. I mean, I don't know if I've seen anything else like that around New York City. But I guess, and I know from our briefing materials that they're complying with certain standards around safety and child play equipment.
Yeah.
But just in layman's terms, like if you're a caregiver and you've accompanied a child there and they're like trees and they're in this complicated structure, like they've really found their way in. Can you see them? Can you kind of always keep an eye? I mean, I understand there are slats and there's meshing, but it's hard to tell from the renderings just how transparent or visible the kids are inside.
Like you can't see everything from like one space on the ground, and but it is appropriately transparent. We have done play towers and closed play like this in a couple of other cities, and so it's good. This is for 5 to 12-year-olds, so that's just a consideration. And the play manufacturer does a lot of things to think about keeping toddlers out. Like you don't want a child who's too young to like accidentally wander into an upper level, and then like the parents are like, where are they? So they do things like they create, if it's not on an accessible route, they'll create some sort of barrier, so the child has to like pause and the parent has time to be like, no, stop, don't go there. I have personally been in them, and I feel like they are reasonably transparent, and I would say it's like not any different from a lot of playgrounds where there are places where kids can go and have like their like secret place, like inside. I think like the hull of ships is often a place where you have that in playgrounds. I know that the slides made things look very opaque, but this mesh is what was looking opaque. So wherever it looked totally solid gray, this is the material that was supposed to be there, but they actually modeled all the little tiny wires, and then they became something like that.
Can you go back to the rendering and show us
what
that is?
Yeah, so like these mesh pieces, we tried to adjust them so that they were a little more representative of what's happening. And then the brown are those wood slats. So you keep going. This one?
There was another one that was just the top. Yeah, go back up forward one.
Forward one.
Forward?
Yeah,
This one, yeah.
This one? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so I can see how they would feel very opaque, but this is a model that the play manufacturer was making to be able to measure out specifically accessible play areas and play types. So they're not thinking about that kind of communication, but it is hyper specific actually. So this is that very transparent mesh. These are those wood slats that you saw, and then this is the suspension bridge, which is it's like a custom made rope with steel inside it. So even if the rope wears, you have steel inside to hold it up.
There's space between us.
Yeah, and the space is actually, it's codified. Like it can't be too big and it can't be too small. It has to be exactly so.
And what is the white rectangles that look like windows? What is that material?
Oh, those are transparent plexi.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, that helps.
I know this is totally, it's hard to look at this without any like additional commentary, but this was very useful for us in working with the Parks Department to map out all the different features that were inside of these, because I think that's actually one of the unique aspects of this park is that there are many examples of enclosed play around, but frequently they don't have a lot going on inside them, and these have a lot of activity inside them.
Can you go to the cross section?
Yeah. Is that this way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say some kid gets up to, I don't know, 37, or like they really kind of get up
Yeah.
in there, and I don't know. They have,
Oh, right. I didn't answer that part of the question.
Claustrophobic or have a panic attack. Like, can an adult physically get in
So,
there and help them
there are-
work out?
Yeah, so there are different scales of like paths to take. There's the ones that are really sized for the kids, and an adult can get through them. I've done it. I've gone and like tested out different ones myself. If you're flexible enough and you're strong enough, you can do that. But then they also have special places that are big enough for adults just to go through. And actually this piece on the outside, which we have a hint of here, is a fire escape. That's what it's pretending to be, but it's literally the adult passage so that they can get into each level and get within like arm reaching distance of a kid who could be in a smaller space that they couldn't have taken the pathway through themselves. This is the sizing. Yeah, so the space that you're in, I'm gonna go over here. Like when you're standing inside a tower, it's probably like that size as a footprint. And the height, an adult can stand in some of the spaces comfortably, and then when there are the dividers and you climb through, then you have to like be on your hands and knees and crawling. Then they crawl, or they go through the bigger adult spaces. But I mean, I've seen a lot of 12-year-olds have a good time.
No, I guess what I'm thinking about is also New York City is unique in many ways in terms of the communities.
Yeah.
And I'm just always concerned that if you have a bunch of kids, one kid starts bullying another kid, they're up there, and you're a parent down here.
Yeah.
Are you going to know because you're pretty far away? And then how do you try and stop that? I think everything is great, but I also know kids are kids. And
Yeah.
they're even if they're the same age, there are kids that are bigger.
Yeah.
And so how is that thought through in these kind of spaces?
I mean, you can, as a parent, you can get to them. There's a small way, and then there's the more comfortable way. I'm just thinking of the example of Brooklyn Bridge Park, which is the same manufacturer. There's a triangular tower with a slide that comes out. And I definitely remember when that first opened and like all the kids were there and they were like piling up at the slide entrance, and my daughter was young and she got in front of it and then she froze and she was like, I don't want to go down the slide. And there were a lot of kids, and we could hear her, and her dad was able to, who is not flexible, he was able to climb up there and get in and deal with what he had to deal with. So it's not super easy for adults, but they can definitely do it.
How would you say that Brooklyn Bridge Park structure compares to this one in terms of distance from the moment you enter the structure to the moment you get to the farthest point? Because I think that's the other concern is you can get there, but how long does it take you to get there? It just seems very complex.
Well, you can take this is a very direct route.
Mm-hmm.
That's like if you're the grown up and you're like, I got to get to my kid who's up here, you're taking this route up. Yeah. And you can't climb it on the outside. You go inside and then you go in. But that's the, direct, I need to get to my child. And so then you can get to each level pretty quickly and be able to access a child who might be unhappy. There's a lot of testing out that happens before any of these get shipped out. I've done it. I've seen it happen where this is all based on very carefully planned and experienced principles and examples. And then when they actually build it, it's like carpentry. They build it, they erect it. The people who are building it try it themselves. They bring their kids, they bring kids from the neighborhood to try it, they observe it, and they change it. And I've seen them make changes when something is too tight or doesn't feel like it's working, or feels like, oh, maybe somebody could actually climb that from the outside and you're not supposed to. And then we go and do that, and the third-party inspector does it also. And all of that happens before it's put into a container and ships. So all of your concerns are like taken very seriously by everybody who's involved in working on these pieces of play design. They're not like just pulled off a shelf and dumped in and set adrift.
Liz, what about overnight? It's the bid going to ensure that they do like a clearance check to make sure everybody's out of there before they close the park, and the same before they open? Because the other concern is we know this park is not top security. And some teenagers or someone else may figure out that this is a cool place to hang out after hours. And it's difficult to tell if someone's there when you open.
So there are PEP officers who will be there at night, and that's been part of the budget that's put towards security and maintenance for the park since the very beginning. And it's also part of why we have this maintenance facility here. In terms of taking care of this, we're beginning to work with the bid right now, which is so now years before it's open. So they understand what's required for maintenance, and we are looking to help them visit other places and meet with other operators and with the manufacturer and with the local distributor, so they understand what's expected on something like this. And then there is, of course, a manual as well. But one of the things is that every morning they have to go look in every space. That's it. That is a requirement, and it's to make sure that there's no one in there, but it's also to make sure that everything is like working, nothing's broken, there's nothing that's a safety issue for a child, and they need to look at it every day.
I want to start by saying, I think this is totally delightful, and the density of plantings and layers of how you manage the elevation changes. I think this is going to be a place where it's going to be immensely popular with not just people who live nearby, but all around. It's really quite magical. When you come back, Larry, we would love to see you think about that block 5, the east Safety Street, and just the circulation along that side, particularly where that crosswalk alights on block 5 from block 6, which I know you'll take a look at. And then thinking about the signage and how you're going to deal with that accessible circulation on block 6. And then finally, just the conditions vis-a-vis the play structure. I mean, I feel like you answered our questions. I mean, in the end, I think the true answer is what you said, which is like, we're going to make it and test it out. So we would just ask that you make sure that when you do that, that you're, thinking about, and I'm sure you will think about both as a designer and as a mother, about all the things of where someone can hide and how you want to get a kid out, all of that. Anything else that I missed? So Liz, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for being us today. Can't wait for it to be open.
Yes. What's your time frame on the
What is our time frame on the opening, Angela?
We go to get final design drawings complete there, going out to the agencies, and then do the contract documents at the beginning of next year and start pre-work in mid next summer.
Exciting.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We'll now continue the committee meeting with the conceptual review of the design of a streetscape master plan for reconstruction of Grand Army Plaza in Brooklyn. We will not hear public testimony or vote on this project today per standard committee meeting procedure. We only hear public testimony in public hearing items. If you would like to submit written testimony on this project, please email the commission at designcommission@cityhall.nyc.gov. It will be distributed to commissioners and saved for the record. Welcome, Nick, and present away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Nick Capati. I'm Deputy Director of Urban Design for New York City DOT. I'm joined by my colleague Casey at DOT, as well as Chair of PB. And we're going to go through this project. I'm going to keep my intro relatively short. I just want to set the context in that this is somewhat of a unique project in terms of where we're at and how it's being developed, in that it's a capital project scope development. You've seen some of these obviously from other agencies, but certainly for DOT, DDC, for very, very complex streetscape and public space projects like Grand Army Plaza. We, in some cases, are able to do this where OMB funds us for preliminary design, right? So there's no construction funding, there's no final design funding yet for this project, but we have money to develop preliminary design and then use that to get basically a better idea of what the project is going to cost, go through an immense amount of community engagement that it's very touching on, and really get to sort of the foundational level, and then be able to take that forward into further design. So there's still a lot here. There's very early phases. We wanted to come to at this early stage to present what is, we think, a very, very exciting project, one that I think the administration is very excited about, and really get your early feedback on some of the major design moves. Some of the detailed design and stuff that we would love to talk about in this one in more detail will be coming. So this is, again, first step in a long journey. And so with that, I'm going to turn over to Casey to run us through where we're at.
Good afternoon. As Nick said, my name is Casey Grow. I'm the Director of Public Realm Design at New York City DOT. I'll be quickly going through kind of an overview and some of the operations of the project. So just for reference, I think everyone's aware of where Grand Army Plaza is situated. It's in Brooklyn at the very north end of Prospect Park, and we are looking at the plaza in its entirety, including Plaza Street East and West. A little bit of background, as Nick said, this is a expense-funded study, so there's no capital construction funding committed at this point. But if it does move forward, we will be coming back to you all for a preliminary, potentially even another conceptual review for PDC, as well as we go through final design, updated analysis, and eventually construction procurement. But this is the kind of summation of about 4 years of work from the agencies to come to this proposal. Just for some context, this is also happening as a lot of other initiatives are going on in the city. Shown in green is the study locations, including Grand Army Plaza, Vanderbilt Avenue, and Underhill Avenue. In relation, we are also looking at how this project could work together with other initiatives, such as the Flatbush Avenue Bus Priority Project, capital project at Flatbush and Atlantic Terminal. A lot of the outcomes coming out of the Atlantic Avenue Mixed Use Plan, which was a rezoning by DCP last year. There's a lot of commitments from the city to do projects on Atlantic Avenue, Dean and Bergen, and Bedford Avenue, as well as an upcoming capital project at Washington Avenue and Lowry Triangle, as well as Washington Avenue at the Botanic Garden. So a lot happening in the neighborhood, and we want to be thinking comprehensively, but we'll be just showing Grand Army Plaza for this presentation. DOT has a lot of history at this location. We've done a lot of in-house work over the years by changing to how vehicles use Prospect Park with their elimination in 2017, as well as a major in-house project in 2021 or 2011, where we converted a lot of the roadway space into the existing plaza that you see to really kind of simplify operations. But the next step is a capital reconstruction of this. So this is all temporary, nothing's permanent. Kind of leveling this all up would require a capital reconstruction. Some historical context, want to note that Grand Army Plaza has changed throughout the years. It is not the original design that was originally envisioned. There was the existing circular fountain in the 1880s. The arch was added in the late 1800s. The entrance ensemble by McKim, Mead, and White was added. Vehicles were introduced. Trolleys came and went. The plaza was reconstructed for the subway. So there's been a lot of changes throughout the decades, culminating in what we see today, which is a very vehicular-dominated area with limited pedestrian space, limited high quality pedestrian gathering space here. So we just want to kind of take this project into the next level while kind of respecting the historical trend of the entire plaza over time. So maintaining the berms, the fountain, and the memorial arch. But really honing in on the southern plaza. When it was originally built, it was a very open area. People were able to freely mill about. There was no vehicles at the time. It then transitioned to a very vehicular dominated space where almost the entirety of Grand Army Plaza was for private vehicles. And then today, where we do have the existing pedestrian space and public space on the southern end where the market exists today. Just for context, while we are looking at the entire plaza area, there are some things that won't really be changed. So the Bailey Fountain Oval, the Memorial Arch, and Prospect Park itself are remaining unchanged. The berms and the entrance ensemble, we would look to either restore or rehabilitate, but maintaining their existing form. So really what we're focusing on is more of the kind of roadways and public space of this, not proposing any major changes to some of those more historical elements of the plaza. Existing conditions, Grand Army Plaza exists in a residential neighborhood at the northern end of Prospect Park. It also is a bit of a cultural hub. You have the Botanic Garden, Prospect Park, and the Brooklyn Public Library kind of forming these very civic-oriented areas. There's also a lot of historical markers here, shown here on the right, ranging from the Memorial Arch itself, which is kind of the key iconic moment, as well as several other statues, the fountain, and the entrance ensemble with the eagle statues. Grand Army Plaza today, it functions essentially as an elongated traffic circle, pretty complex movements, but the arch and the fountain are relatively separated from the park itself. So to kind of cross into this area, which is a very premier civic moment, you do have to cross multiple lanes of traffic as vehicles are coming on both sides of the oval. Just a couple photos just to show reference, some of the state condition of some of the spaces. Some of the pavement is in pretty poor shape. We have temporary painted spaces that are frequently abused by vehicles. There's a lot of different materials here. There's the herringbone brick at the southern end of the plaza, the big painted area that feels very desolate and open. A lot of crosswalks, complicated traffic movements, and you are separated from the arch from the park by 4 lanes of traffic. Again, more photos of the existing site conditions, the mix of materials with bluestone pavers, hex, concrete sidewalks, painted surfaces. There's kind of a lot going on, and we've categorized all of it. And it is a lot, and there hasn't really been a moment to really rethink what the materials are from a comprehensive standpoint. Things have come and gone, been added. It's been a little bit piecemeal. So this does present an opportunity to kind of pick what are we preserving, what are we using as the new material going forward, to kind of guide the design if this proceeds with a reconstruction. Also, a lot of furniture, mixed match benches, seat walls, kind of a mix of new DOT typical items such as the bus shelter versus more kind of historic natured parks materials, multiple different types of bollards, and then even multiple types of fencing. So using this as an opportunity to create a more cohesive palette of options. Similar with street lighting, a mix of historic landmarked poles as well as the more typical historic poles like the Type N and the Type B pole. A couple important views. There's a lot of very key view sheds at Grand Army Plaza. Coming south from the fountain, you see the Memorial Arch with the park in the background. Coming out of the park, your framed view of the arch itself. Coming down Eastern Parkway, a very critical view, as well as coming from Union.
Excuse me, okay, so just a few more minutes.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to go quickly through these. The plaza today is very desolate. It's very hot. It's not very welcoming. It doesn't really function well as a public space that you use if the market's not there. We want to really reinforce a lot of the programming and partnerships that are happening. Really highlight a lot of the key events here. This is a civic area. There's been protests, marathons. There's the food, the market, as well as holiday events. And I will quickly go through the roadway design before turning it over to Terry. When we started this process, we had 2 options where we would reroute Flatbush Avenue to one side, and then another option where we unified the public space. As part of our community outreach, we did a survey. We had over 1,600 responses, and the kind of decision was to move forward with option B, which is unifying the public spaces. And we had a lot of support from the community in that regard. We made some design edits as we went through this entire process. The key ones here is adding a bike connection on the west side of the oval and adding additional crossings to the oval to increase access into the fountain area. From an operations standpoint, we're looking to drastically simplify operations. There's 3,000 pedestrians in the morning peak hour on the south side, and we're looking to reduce the number of conflict points with vehicles from 24 to 12 to really simplify how people move through the plaza. From a bus perspective, looking at simplifying bus routes to one side of the plaza, which would improve bus travel times by 41%. From a vehicular standpoint, about a third of vehicles use that roadway between the arch and the park today, kind of coming around. We would simply be redirecting them to the other side.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just go back one step.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to reduce, the new design will reduce bus time moving through Granary Plaza by 40%.
Yes, correct. Per passenger. And from a vehicular standpoint, a lot of vehicles are coming down Flatbush. We would actually improve travel times by simplifying those operations, where people coming from Union Street, instead of going directly through the plaza, would need to loop around, would see a slight increase in travel times. It's a longer distance. It's going to take a little bit longer to go. But in general, from an operations standpoint, all trips that are occurring within the plaza today will remain in the plaza under this proposal. From a cycling perspective, reducing the number of intersection waiting points from 11 to 3, so drastically simplifying how you move through on a bike. Right now, you cross the street, wait, cross the street, wait, cross the street, wait. From a routing perspective, a lot of protected infrastructure to the south, which is to the left, coming up from the park. Vanderbilt is a key connection as it moves up towards other routes that lead to the Manhattan Bridge. This would improve the protected bike lane network around Grand Army Plaza, as well as provide a direct connection through the plaza to take some of the pressure off of Plaza Street, which is seeing a significant increase in cycling traffic today. And I will pass it over to Taryn. I'll move out. Yeah.
Optimize pedestrian and bike circulation on the southern plaza, utilizing a unified design. Okay, we're okay. Utilizing, utilizing a unified. Oh, no problem. Okay, so we were tasked with assisting DOT with creating a design for the plaza, a design strategy. And our strategy is based on these tenets: to honor the historic context and elements, to optimize pedestrian and bicycle circulation and connectivity of spaces that make up the Southern Plaza, utilizing a unified design, materiality, and amenities vocabulary. Focus on varied community uses and programming, a design for the space that works. This is really, really important, was creating a design that works at an intimate scale, as well as for the very large gatherings that happen here, and create linkages by extending and enhancing the plaza's green through additional planted spaces. 3 alternate design frameworks were developed for presentation to the community and to get feedback. The first one, so again, these are just frameworks. The first was a radial design. The second was a diagonal, what we call the diagonal grove, both of which were a little bit more formal in approach. And the third is what's called the open access, which is a little bit more of a modern interpretation. But the one thing that it did do was it allowed for more substantial planting areas. Community responses, you can see the preferences are shown as a percentage at the bottom of the slide. So the diagonal and the open access were much more preferred. Next slide, please. And
I'm not going to go through all of this, but the outcome was really, the community liked the formality of the diagonal design, but what they really appreciated was the increased landscape and planting, particularly tree plantings in the plaza, and how those could help form and create spaces within the plaza, the southern plaza. And what we also developed through the community outreach process was a baseline for amenities that we think are critical, or which we discovered are critical to the plaza. So shade, community was very, very interested in restrooms, biodiversity in the plantings that are provided, an opportunity for art installations, a variety of furnishings, architectural lighting for the plaza, and something to help or assist with climate comfort, some kind of infrastructure that goes beyond just creating shade through new tree plantings. Next.
Terry, just a few more minutes.
Okay. So this is the proposed plan, which, as I said, is a combination of alternative 1 and, or sorry, alternative 2 and 3. So you can really get to see the elimination, what it means to the, with the elimination of the vehicular route, disconnecting the plaza. Next. It's just an enlargement of the southern end. You start to see the added plantings. Next. This view shows how the integration of canopy trees is helping to frame views and starting to create smaller spaces within without obscuring, without obscuring the views of the important historic elements. Next. Section through from south to the Bailey Fountain at the north. Next. And then this was an operational study. We just started to take a look at what's currently used in terms of percentages of space for the various uses and categorize them small, medium, and large based on the amount of approximate capacity. Next. This is the existing circulation, shows you the circulation pedestrian and vehicular, and where there are existing conflicts, both weekdays and Saturdays when the market is in place, the green market. Next. And this is proposed. So you start to see how it gets simplified, conflicts are reduced. Next. Next. Okay, and then we also took a look at currently how the market space is, or how the market uses the space. Started to look at capacity for that. Next. And did some overlays over the new space. So you see we're increasing this Southern Plaza space by approximately 40%. And you start to see that it creates opportunities for expanding the green market, for inclusion of green spaces. Next. Again, an overlay of how the market could work in the new space. Next. And this is the current existing plan showing you how the disconnect there. And then next, the proposed plan showing you how we get that unification of the spaces with just the bikeway coming through the space. Next is the side-by-side comparison of the two. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in at the very end, because I forgot to mention terribly that this has also been a very close collaboration with Parks. We have our colleagues here, as well as Prospect Park Alliance, which has obviously been a key stakeholder. So those have all been really key to the development of this. And again, this is very early in the process. I think we're very interested in your feedback on some of the geometric changes, the changes to the circulation, the mobility, as well as the kind of framework ideas that we're coming up with, so we can take that forward into the next scope. And obviously we'll be back to you with much more development too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. I mean, such an incredibly complicated geometric puzzle with all these major avenues coming in and balancing the cars and buses, people, bikes, all the uses and things. So it's, I mean, you can really see how it's already starting to be optimized even at this early stage. So the question I'm going to ask is not necessarily a criticism, it's just a sort of clarification. So that remaining, so you've undone all this like extra spaghetti and excess asphalt, but there's like still one strand left, which is that bikeway that intersects the Arch and West Drive. So I'm just wondering, like, why is that? You know, you're trying to sort of strengthen the park to the center of the plaza and make it really pedestrian and green and get rid of this hardscape and paving, but why leave and like just that one piece still for the bikes?
So you're talking about this connection?
No,
This piece here.
I mean, I understand like it's better for bikes, but
Mhm.
the big picture, like why would you leave that one piece there still?
Yeah, it's mostly from a bike routing perspective. This is a very complex like hub of the entire bike network. So people are coming out of the park. Prospect Park is like a huge cycling location. So people come out of the park and they need to connect to their other locations, but also the kind of cross Brooklyn traffic is very high. So Eastern Parkway is part of the historic Greenway network. It comes in and then it crosses to then go to parts west in the larger network. So I think that is like the last remaining kind of like vehicle type of space that is between the park and the Arch. But
Why would you just go all the way? Just like
we also assume,
getting rid of all the conflicts.
even if we remove it, that there will be bikes here because you got the entrance and the mouth of Prospect Park. So we want to make sure that they have a dedicated space because they will be there.
I think what makes it a bit challenging is that, but also the fact that the two lanes that bring you into the park cut the plaza in half. And specifically that rendering that you showed where the trees are aligned to frame the arc kind of gets weakened by the two bike lanes because, you know, on a busy day, this is, I mean, people are not going to stay on the bike lane, pedestrians are going to step on the bike lane, kids are going to be in the middle of the way. So I think that's the one thing that I would ask if there's a way to rethink it, even if the bike lane needs to be between the arc and the plaza because of the route you mentioned. Could these two lanes maybe go along the sides? Yeah, go back to the plan. Because they just really cut the possibilities of the plaza and also thinking ahead of the permanent design, right? This really cuts it in half. If you could come at least like that, and like that, it would open up the space to be a lot stronger.
Yeah, I would definitely say that is still the one part that needs more thought. Yeah, we've gone back and forth on it.
Definitely. And then also thinking if there's no way around this, and I could see why there couldn't be a way around it, what is the treatment of that bike lane? So again, there's more awareness between cyclists and pedestrians, especially when you see on a Saturday morning, like tons of people crossing the street over there.
Yeah, that's great. And these are exactly the kind of comments that we're hoping to get. So we can take that back and further refine.
Like here.
I think it is a challenge of bike behavior, right? Like ultimately cyclists are going to want to go the shortest distance. And so we have to just balance that. Again, we could take a look at it, but I think we don't want to create a lane that ultimately nobody uses and they just cut in where pedestrians. Right. Yeah. So I think that's a piece. Again, we'll take a closer look at this, and again, closer to the park may be desirable, especially because you still have people coming from Prospect Park West as well, right? Like there's a so it's a big confluence of where people are trying to move through this space.
I mean, I wonder, one of the options you presented, I think it was option 3, it kind of created a semicircular planting bed around the plaza, creating an interior space. What I think was successful about that study is that it did create a sense of separation from the bike lane and the plaza, that maybe the bike lane needs to be there. Maybe that's a positive thing to at least screen it, create a clear differencing of the modes while still framing the views that are critical.
Is that visible in the studies that you showed? Yes. Can we go back to?
You have the clicker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We can't. If James could do it.
It's before that, there was a slide that had the 3 studies.
There was like the very end.
40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look at that.
This one.
This one.
Yeah.
So here, if you think about if you were to close this planting bed just a little bit more while still keeping that view corridor, it could help separate those modes if that bike lane needed to be there. Like right now, it just seems like it's it's a little bit too merged together.
Yeah, that's, again, I think this is an area that we can definitely take a much closer look
100%.
at.
Since I'm talking other pieces of feedback, I take this all the time to go from Union Street down to Flatbush. That stoplight is the worst in the world. You can get stuck there for half an hour and not move. This is gonna make it worse. I'm completely in support of this proposal, but I am just curious if you're also considering very pointed traffic signal
So
changes.
it won't make it worse, but it won't make it better. So what we're actually able to do is with people coming off of Union, right now, wait, this is Union. Coming off of Union, you're held mostly because you're waiting on Flatbush. Flatbush will be over here, you'll get more green time. So we might actually be able to improve the processing on Union. And what we can also do is everyone waits at this light and queues all the way back on Union. We're able to pull people into the plaza to have you queue at multiple spots so we can disperse the problem. It probably won't be better, but it shouldn't be worse.
On a Saturday morning, nothing's better, but it's just a very sticky point in the whole network.
Yes.
Other comments? And keep going. Okay. So, and let's stay on this slide because I think this slide is great. I think you really pointed to all the key, both tenants, but also challenges of the area, the insane amount of different materials, the different mixes between historic materials and none, the fact that there's also Parks Department vocabulary, DOT vocabulary, historic vocabulary. So I think this presents a really strong design challenge because this is a really important place. And I don't think picking up just one single design vocabulary is going to work, right? Like it needs to blend with everything. But I also would strongly caution doing a design style that's too contemporary because it will feel really, really out of place. So I think, everything you said, creating spaces for social gathering, looking at strong paving as a way to guide your way through, greening, framing the views are all really important things. How they manifest themselves, I think, is going to be the bigger question, and how you balance creating a new space with the mix mash of historic stuff around here. I do think out of all of the schemes, even though you presented one that's a mix of this and this, I actually think this one is much stronger because with the planting, it creates a new space that connects to Prospect Park and Grand Army Plaza, but it can also stand on its own. And given the conflicts of all of these other elements, it might be actually a very strategic move to kind of create this little enclave within everything else. I think the merger, the vegetation gets a little bit too thin, and it loses that kind of holding of the boundaries that I think is very successful.
Yeah, I would say the community really responded to these two, mostly from we like plantings and we like trees. I think those are the two big takeaways and how we really bolster those two ideas.
And we have been having, I think, really helpful conversations with both Prospect Park Alliance's archivist in terms of understanding the history of this space, as well as initial conversations with LPC staff. And we'll be talking with LPC staff further as well, just to try to understand really what is the significant historic pieces here that we absolutely must sort of be cognizant about versus where can we start to think about that evolution and how it works together.
So I'm going to summarize, but before I do, I just want to add that I also agree with Isabel that I think that scheme that the community most embraced is very successful. And I would urge you to, and I know you haven't got to this point yet, to think about the materials by use specifically, so that becomes like very much the gathering material as opposed to circulating, and that I'm sure you already have this in mind, but in the same way that the like north end of Union Square was designed specifically to house a market, and there are places for stanchions and washing things and whatever, would be something I think to consider here because that market is beloved.
Yep.
Okay. So when you come back, we look forward to seeing this as it moves forward. I think we would love to see you rethink the way that the bike lanes cut through that South Plaza. And both, going north, the bike lanes that are going north-south, but maybe even the ones that go between the arch and the plaza. It may be that there, as you said earlier, like maybe there's not a better way to do that, but I think we're asking you to just think about that and try to minimize that kind of conflict. And maybe this design here helps with the planting, defining the interior. And then, yes, just the design vocabulary. Like I also agree with Isabel that I don't know that one vocabulary will work, but I think in a certain way, like the way we circulate now and the kind of care that you all are giving to bike lanes, that's new. We have really done that as a city, so maybe that's the place for the newer materiality. Whereas the market, which we have done for a long time, maybe there it's like you just go with, well, cobbles or whatever you're pulling up from the site. Yeah.
Deborah, can I just add one more comment on that sort of material selection? I mean, we're so preliminary and you're going to do all this research and come back with options and things. But this is such a prominent site, such a beautiful opportunity. And so I think, when you are looking at the material selections and the cost of construction and, something that might take more like hand placement or be a higher initial cost per square foot, like I think there might be opportunities here to sort of put that extra cost and attention to like some very prominent spaces. And, I mean, it's just such an expanse. It's going to cost a lot of money, but no one wants to see a sea of asphalt or stuff that's just, because it's so easy to maintain or whatever, that I think this is the place to put that kind of attention.
Yeah. I imagine you've looked at this, but have you looked at the Reinventing Grand Army Plaza, the Design Trust publication? Do you know it?
Yes.
Okay, because it does illuminate a bunch of different circulation ideas. It's probably less developed at this point than these, but there may be some things that we said there. Okay, so with that, we are very excited to see this move forward. We really appreciate the work that you're doing to engage this community and to really think through like what makes sense for the way we live now. Really appreciate that. And we're excited to see the next phase. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And this concludes our meeting. The public meeting is now adjourned.